guys, how you doing? If you saw my title down below, it's not clickbait. My furnace is out. It's dead. Came home the other day or yesterday and it wasn't reading anything on the thermostat, so I had to explore, and it's not too bad outside. It's like 34 degrees outside, so it's just about freezing, and it's not too bad inside, so I dress appropriately, obviously. So, well, that's not quite right. It's a little bit warmer. It's like 62 in here, so let me tell you what happened. Okay, so that's better. I didn't really need all that stuff on. Like I said, it's a little bit warmer in here. My low guy here says it's 62.6. It's been staying in the 64 to 62 range for most of the day and night. Obviously my fish, they're in the 70-degree weather, so they've got the best spot in the house. But came home yesterday and my furnace was not working. Came in from doing some shopping and it seemed a little more nippier in the house than usual. So I checked the thermostat and it said no power. So first thing I know how to do is check the power switch on the furnace, because there is a little switch on the side. Check that, that's fine. Check the circuit breaker, that was fine, nothing going on with that. So the next step, because I didn't want to call anybody as far as service guys, because they can take a long time and they can take a lot of money from you too. So the first thing I did was, of course, Google it. And I came up with a lot of things to read and a lot of YouTubes to go over. And a couple of them were pretty good. Some of them really kind of painful to watch. But I was able to get through them, and hopefully you don't think this one is painful to watch, but if you do, that's okay too. So after going over the YouTube videos, I saw one that said to check your circuit breaker. I flipped it a few times to make sure it was on, and then I noticed by switching a few of the other ones that weren't really needed, it's like a garbage disposal and the garage, I flipped those and I noticed they clicked a little bit different than the one that was hooked up for the furnace. So my next step would be to replace that breaker on my panel. So I ran up to the hardware store, figuring it was a 15 amp circuit breaker that I needed. Just pick one up, get back, got to the store, and there's like tons of different breakers. Not just different amperages. I mean, you got your 20s, you got your 30s, but there's single polarity, there's double polarity, there's tandem, there was just so many, it just went on and on. So I did know I had a single switch just by looking at the different types. So it was a single polarity and a 15 amp. But then on the back side of those guys, there's a ton of different options. Polarity should be fine, right? Well, on the back side, the way it connects into your panel, there's all different kind of connections. So I picked out 3, got into the panel there, switched them out, pulled the bad one out. They were the one that was connected to the furnace, and compared them all to the other ones, and they didn't look like they had a good match. So what I did was find another 15 amp in my board, or in my panel there, that was going to something I really didn't need, and that was the garbage disposal. So I pulled that 15 amp, switched it with the furnace, plugged both of them back in, made sure the power was out, the main power was off. Didn't like to electrocute myself or anything like that. So switched those around, put it back on the panel back together, and turned them both on, and still nothing at the furnace. I said, well, that's not good either, but let me just double check the garbage disposal, see if the breaker that I was using on the furnace is still good. And the garbage disposal power, turned on just fine. So it wasn't the breaker. The panel's getting power, obviously. So with the breaker being good on both accounts, I mean, the garbage disposal worked, so obviously the breaker that was on the furnace was good too. So my next step was I called my buddy across the street. He's a good neighbor and friend of mine. He likes to tinker around with things and try to solve problems just like I do. So he came over and we went over it up and down, back and forth. He cleaned out the wires and all the debris and stuff that had been accumulating in there. You got to clean those once in a while. But we still could not solve the problem. So my last solution was to call the guys. This was yesterday around 6 o'clock or so. They were going to come out within an hour and a half or so and charge a good bit of money, about $1.50. So I thought about it, and I decided to call them back. I said, well, if you don't come out today and come out tomorrow, how much is it going to be? And it was about almost half of what they were going to charge me for that night. So I said, I can deal with the night of a little coolness. I'll just be bundled up really good, and I'll see you tomorrow. So they are going to be out today, and hopefully we can get that going without too much money involved or too much time involved too. It would be nice to get a little warmth back into the house here again. But I will let you know how that goes, so I'll catch you in a few minutes or later on today. Well guys, it's the next day, and I'm happy to say I have my heat running again. The furnace is running fine. The guy came on time. He was a very nice service guy. He was checking everything out the best he could. Like I said, it wasn't the breaker, so these little 3 puppies have to go back to the store. I got the receipt for that, so that's no problem. But what he found out, it was not the furnace itself, but the Nest thermostat that I have on my wall. And what he had to add was this little device here called Add-A-Wire by Venstar. And once that was input, the Nest thermostat was able to communicate with the furnace okay, and everything's been running fine ever since. Now I don't know why it wasn't running fine before, or why it was running fine before. I probably installed it a year and a half ago, and I've never had any problems with it, and then all of a sudden it just gave out. I asked him about it. He wasn't sure why it was happening with the Nest ones. He's done a few other ones that similar problem has happened to. But when you install the Nest, at least on my system, I had a 5-wire on my old thermostat, but it was a jumper, making it a 5-wire. But on the thermostat instructions for the Nest, it says you don't need that 5th wire or the jumper, so you can remove it and just use one of the connections on the R, either the RH or the RC, as you can see on here. But it's been running fine ever since that I installed it. But once it ran into problems the other day and shut off and wouldn't communicate anymore, the service guy had to add a 5th wire to it, and that was with this kit. I'll put a link down below. He said it wasn't available to the general public. They only sell it commercially, which I found it on Amazon, so I'll give you a link down below if you want to give it a shot or not. There was a lot of wiring to do to the control panel inside the furnace. But it's running fine. I'm enjoying my warmth again, and that was about it. I was glad it wasn't too expensive. I mean, he probably charged me, I think, about $80 for this, and then on Amazon, I found it for about 25 bucks. So you can save a lot of money if you're willing to take the chance of wiring this Add-A-Wire to your furnace system and seeing if that resolves the Nest problem. If you're not having that problem with your Nest and you're still running on 4 wires, I would just leave it as is until you come across that problem. When it's like, if it's working, don't try to fix it. But like I said, it's working fine. I'm enjoying my heat again, and my thermostat is communicating great with my iPhone and everything, so I'm happy. I just wish Nest would kind of let you know in the instructions that that's a possibility, or even on their website. I didn't go deep into the website to see if that says it or not, but that's what the problem was. So we're back to being happy, warm, and I'll catch you next time.